I still remember the smell of sawdust on my clothes that evening. I had just locked up my workshop and walked into my living room when my daughter, Lena, stepped inside like a gentle breeze carrying a storm I didn't see coming. "Lena," I said, smiling without thinking, "I need to know the date for your wedding. I already finished paying for everything. I just want to make sure I close the shop that day." I was excited, maybe more excited than a man my age should be. I had imagined watching her walk down the aisle, imagined holding her arm and feeling proud that I had raised her alone. I had saved for years. Every nail I hammered, every chair I built, every long night, it was all so she would have the wedding she dreamed of. She didn't even look up from her phone when she answered. "Oh, it was 4 days ago," she said. "We already did it. It was just for the family." I thought I misheard her. "For the family?" I repeated. "Yeah, something small. Something small. Something simple. Something I wasn't invited to." A soft ringing started inside my ears, the kind that comes when someone punches you in the head. My chest grew tight, but I stayed still. I had learned long ago when my wife died that shouting solves nothing. So I just stood there, staring at my own daughter while she slipped her phone into her bag and walked out. She didn't notice my shaking hands. Or maybe she did. Maybe she didn't care. For the next month, I worked quietly. I fixed cabinets, carved wood, and kept my sadness hidden, like a nail buried deep inside a wall. Every night, when I lay down, her words replayed in my mind. It was 4 days ago. Just for the family. One afternoon, she returned. "Dad," she said as she entered the kitchen, "the mortgage payment is overdue. When will you pay it?" I looked up from the drawer I was repairing. "Mortgage, Lena? I didn't know." "It's overdue," she snapped. "So when will you handle it?" Her tone was sharp, almost rushed, like she was placing an order at a shop. I wiped my hands slowly on my cloth. "Lena," I said, keeping my voice calm, "the family will pay it." She brightened instantly. "Great! I knew you would." Before I could explain what I meant, she rushed outside, already dialing Brent. I could hear her voice floating through the window. "Yeah, he said he'll pay it. I told you, you worry too much." I sat back down, my old chair creaking under me. I wasn't angry. I was tired in a way that reached my bones. I kept thinking about the wedding I never saw, the aisle I never walked, the father-daughter moment I would never get back. 30 minutes passed quietly. Then I heard a car pull into my driveway. Not Lena's, not Brent's. Two people stepped out, people I never expected, especially not on a quiet day like that. And the moment I saw their faces, I felt something inside me shift, as if a truth I had ignored for years was finally standing right in front of me. I didn't always feel this distance between Lena and me. When she was little, she used to run into my workshop and sit on the floor with her tiny legs crossed, watching me carve wood. She would ask questions about everything: why the wood curled, why the sawdust smelled sweet, why I worked so much. I always gave the same answer: "So you can have a good life, Lena." After her mother passed, I raised her with my own hands. I cooked, I cleaned, I worked long hours, and I saved every bit I could. I wanted her to grow up without feeling the emptiness I felt. And for many years, she stayed close to me. But that changed the day she met Brent. I still remember the first time she mentioned him. She came home with a bright smile and said, "Dad, I met someone. He's smart, he's brave, and he understands me." Back then, I was happy for her. She deserved someone kind. But when I finally saw Brent, something inside me tightened. He spoke fast, smiled too confidently, and always had an excuse for everything. His eyes darted around, like someone checking exits in a room. Still, Lena adored him, so I tried to keep an open heart. They moved quickly. Too quickly. Within months, she was talking about marriage. Brent barely had a job, but he always spoke like a man with big dreams. "I'm working on something huge," he once told me. He never explained what that something was. Soon after, small things started to change. Lena visited less. Brent's voice replaced hers on the phone. And whenever she needed money, she came straight to me. I told myself she was just young and confused. I told myself she would find her balance. I told myself everything was fine. Then the wedding talk began. "Dad," she said one evening, "Brent and I want a simple wedding. Nothing stressful." "That's fine," I said. "But simple or not, I want to be there." "You will," she answered quickly, looking away. I didn't know this was the first lie. Weeks later, Brent convinced Lena that a private ceremony would be better. "Less drama," he said. "Less pressure." He made it sound like it was for her peace of mind. But even then, I sensed he wanted to control everything. Still, I paid. For the hall. For the dress. For the food. For the music. For every dream she ever had. I didn't know the money was going somewhere else. During this time, collectors started calling Brent. I didn't know yet, but Lena did. She tried to hide the calls by turning her phone face down, speaking in whispers, and pretending it was just work problems. Her fear grew every day, but she kept smiling for him. Brent began pressuring her to ask me for more money. "Your dad cares about you," I heard him tell her once. "He'll help. Just talk to him." The first time she asked me for a small loan, she looked guilty. The second time, she looked tired. The third time, she didn't look at me at all. I didn't know then. But the wedding wasn't meant to be small. It was meant to be hidden. Hidden from me. Hidden from anyone who might tell Lena the truth about the man she was marrying. I used to think I knew my daughter's life, even when she didn't tell me everything. But Chapter 3 of my life with Lena and Brent taught me that a parent can stand beside their child and still see only half the truth. The real trouble began long before that wedding she hid from me. I learned later that Brent had debts stacked higher than he ever admitted. People were calling him day and night people, who didn't sound patient or polite. Lena tried to pretend everything was normal, acting like the calls were business matters. But her eyes told a different story. Every buzz of her phone made her jump. Every unknown number made her bite her lip. She was living inside a storm, and I had no idea. Brent was a master at talking big. He always had some magical plan that would make them rich soon. A new business idea. A small investment. A friend who promised him a breakthrough. He made Lena believe that money troubles were temporary, just a rough patch, and that better days were coming. But the truth was simple. He was drowning, and he was pulling her down with him. One thing I didn't know at the time was how good Brent was at twisting words. When Lena cried about the debt, he would hug her and say, "If your dad helps us, everything will be fine. He loves you. He wants the best for you." Love, in Brent's mind, was just another door he wanted to push open. The idea of a small wedding didn't come from Lena. It came from him. And it wasn't about peace or privacy. It was about pressure. He needed to keep the event cheap, fast, and hidden. A rushed ceremony meant fewer eyes, fewer questions, and fewer chances for someone to warn Lena. He convinced her that inviting me would only complicate things. "Your dad will worry," he told her. "Let's keep it simple. Just us." Simple. That word again. Always the same word when he wanted to hide something. I didn't know then that the money I paid, $40,000, I saved through years of sweat, didn't all go to the wedding. Some of it did, but a large part went to debts, late fees, and things I'm not sure Lena even understood. I also didn't know that on the morning of the wedding, Lena cried in her car before stepping out. She kept looking at her phone, hoping maybe, praying that I would appear somehow, that I would magically know where she was. But she was too scared to call me. She didn't want to argue with Brent, not on their big day. She walked down the aisle alone, holding no one's arm. When the ceremony ended, Brent kissed her hand like a man who had won a prize, not a partner. After the wedding, the pressure grew. Bills piled up. Collectors became louder. Brent needed more money, and now that he had hidden the wedding from me successfully, he felt more confident asking for bigger things. That was when he told Lena to ask me for their mortgage payment. She didn't want to, but she was afraid of losing him, afraid of failing as a wife, afraid of everything falling apart. So she came to me, and I, still blind to the truth, simply listened. Looking back, the saddest part is this. Lena thought she was protecting their marriage, but she didn't know she was protecting a lie. When that car stopped in front of my house that day, I didn't know everything yet, but I knew enough to feel a heaviness inside me. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was the quiet sadness a father feels when he realizes his child has been living in shadows he never noticed. After they left, and after the noise of their visit finally faded, I sat alone in my kitchen. My hands were resting on the wooden table I built years ago. I kept staring at the grain lines, following them with my eyes the way a tired man follows the road home. That was when I decided one thing. I couldn't keep letting Lena and Brent pull me into their troubles without even telling me the truth. I loved my daughter, but love doesn't mean letting people destroy themselves. I needed to understand what was really happening. I didn't shout at Lena. I didn't confront Brent. I didn't make any loud moves. Instead, I did what I had always done, watched quietly, listened carefully, and thought before acting. The first person I went to was my sister, Mel. Aunt Mel had always been able to see things clearly. She never sugarcoated anything. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask a single unnecessary question. She simply said, "Sit. Something is wrong." Over tea, I told her everything. The hidden wedding, the mortgage demand, the strange visitors, the growing distance in Lena's eyes. Mel sighed deeply. "I knew something was off with that man," she murmured. "He talks too much and works too little." Then she stood up, walked into her room, and came back with a small folder. She placed it in front of me. "What's this?" I asked. "Proof," she said. Inside were screenshots, messages, small notes, things Mel had kept after noticing Brent's behavior online and in the neighborhood. She didn't know the full story, but she had seen enough signs to be suspicious. Brent had been looking for fast money. He had debts all over town. He had been asking people for short-term loans. He had even been seen arguing with someone behind a liquor store. Each page felt like a nail driving into my chest. Mel put a hand on my arm. "Listen," she said. "You're a good man, but you've been blind about this. Lena is scared, and scared people hide things. But Brent is using her, and he'll use you too, if you let him." Her words settled into my mind like stones sinking to the bottom of a river. That night, I sat in my workshop long after dark. I didn't touch my tools. I just thought about Lena's childhood, about Brent's fake smile, about the wedding I never saw, and about the mortgage they wanted me to handle. I needed a plan not to punish them, but to protect my daughter from the deeper trouble she was walking into. I wanted her to be safe. I wanted her to see the truth for herself, without shouting, without forcing her. So I made up my mind. I would not give them money. I would not argue. I would not fight. I would show Lena the truth, slowly, clearly, and in a way she could not ignore. And once she saw it, she would understand everything. The next morning, I woke up with a clear mind. For the first time in a long while, I felt steady inside. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't lost. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I knew I could not wait for things to get worse. I called Lena and asked her to come over. When she arrived, she looked tired, eyes swollen, shoulders stiff, like she had not slept well. Brent followed behind her, wearing that same confident smile he always used when he wanted something. "Dad," Lena said softly, "did you get the mortgage papers? We need—" I raised my hand gently. "Sit, both of you." Brent leaned back in his chair like he owned the room. "So, Mr. Holt," he said, "about the payment?" I didn't respond to him. Instead, I picked up the folder Aunt Mel had given me and placed it on the table. "This," I said quietly, "is what the family will pay." Lena stared at the folder. "What is that?" "You'll see," I answered. She opened it slowly. At first, her eyes moved calmly. Then they froze. Each page showed another piece of the truth. Debts, messages, names, warnings. She saw screenshots of Brent asking strangers for money. She saw messages where he promised to make her father handle it. She saw the list of people who had been chasing him. Her breathing changed. Her fingers trembled as she turned the pages. "Brent," she whispered. What is this?" Brent shifted in his seat. His smile cracked. "These are lies. Your aunt hates me." I looked at him directly. "Your aunt didn't ask for $40,000. Your aunt didn't hide the wedding. Your aunt didn't push Lena into debt." His jaw tightened, and for the first time, he couldn't look me in the eye. Lena kept turning pages until she couldn't anymore. She pushed the folder away as tears filled her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked him. "Why did you let me think everything was fine?" Brent opened his mouth, but no real answer came out, just excuses, weak ones. I spoke softly. "Lena, I love you. I always will. But love doesn't mean closing my eyes to the truth. You have been carrying a weight that was never yours." She covered her face with her hands and cried quietly. Not the loud crying of anger, no. This was the small, painful cry of someone who finally sees the whole picture. I moved my chair closer and placed my hand on her back. "You are my daughter. You will always have a home with me. But I will not pay for lies. I will not help someone who uses you." Slowly, Brenda's confidence melted into panic. He tried to grab her arm. "Come on, Lena, let's go. He's turning you against me." She pulled her arm away. For the first time since this whole mess began, she looked at him with clear eyes. "I'm not going anywhere with you," she said, voice shaking but firm. "Not anymore." Brent stood up sharply, but I stood too. Not in anger, just steady, strong, unmovable. He realized then that he had lost control. He left without another word. When the door closed behind him, the house felt lighter. Not silent. Not empty. Just lighter. Lena leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "Dad, I'm sorry." I held her close. "We will rebuild," I told her. "Not with money, with truth." And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had my daughter back.